The sleek, silver vessel of the galactic Concorde hung in the silent void over the blue-green marble of Earth. Its sole occupant, a being of elegant and fragile biology, known as a Lumin, observed the planet with a mixture of professional curiosity and profound personal relief. Her name was Alara. Her people were telepaths, perceiving the emotional state of others through delicate, neural filaments that shimmered like spun starlight around their heads. Physical touch was, for them, an act of overwhelming intimacy, reserved for family or bonded mates. Unwanted contact was not merely rude. It was a psychic trauma. Alara's mission was simple: survey the newly contacted humans, catalog their societal structures, and avoid all direct interaction. The memory of her last assignment, where a boisterous Troglodyan merchant had clapped her on the shoulder, still made her filaments flutter in distress. Humans, according to preliminary reports, were tactile, robust, and emotionally loud. She would observe from orbit, compile her report, and depart. It was perfect. A sudden, catastrophic energy surge from her ship's crystal drive core shattered that plan. Alarms shrieked in harmonies that felt like physical blows. The vessel, losing all power, began a violent, uncontrolled descent. Alara strapped into her crash webbing, a silent prayer to the cosmic weave on her lips. The world outside the viewport became a hellish orange streak, then green, then black. Consciousness returned to the smell of damp earth, burnt circuitry, and something else. Something green and vital. She was alive. Her pod had ejected, depositing her in a clearing within a dense forest of towering trees. The quiet was immense, broken only by bird calls and the sigh of wind. But beneath it, she could feel the low hum of the planetary biosphere, a steady, thrumming presence. It was not unpleasant, just vast. She activated her wrist link. It flickered, displaying only a cracked map and a distress beacon with a 48-hour delay. 48 hours in this alien wilderness. She gathered her composure. She was a Lumin of the Concorde. She would be professional. She would be detached. The first day was a lesson in acute sensory overload. Every insect buzz was a screech, every rustle in the undergrowth a potential threat. She could feel the pulse of life around her, a chaotic symphony of simple hungers and fears. She sipped water from her recycler and ate concentrated nutrient paste, avoiding anything native. As twilight fell, the emotional landscape shifted. The playful hum of day creatures faded, replaced by a colder, sharper resonance of predators on the hunt. A deep, resonant howl echoed in the distance, and Alara felt a primal fear that was not her own ripple through the psychic fabric of the forest. She sealed herself in the dim sanctuary of her crashed pod, her filaments glowing a soft, anxious blue. On the second day, necessity forced her to venture further. Her recycler needed fresh water. A stream was marked on her fractured map a short distance away. Moving with ethereal grace, she navigated the roots and ferns. The stream was there, clear and cold. As she filled her vessel, she felt it. A focused, intelligent presence. Not animal. It was a complex blend of curiosity, concern, and a decisive problem-solving calm. She turned slowly. A human stood at the edge of the clearing. He was tall by her standards, dressed in sturdy, practical fabrics stained with earth and plant life. In his hands was a long, straight piece of polished wood, which he held not as a weapon, but as a tool. His face was weathered, his eyes a calm, observant gray. He did not speak. Illyra's filaments flared in brilliant gold, a universal sign of warning and distress. She took a step back, raising her empty hands. "I am a representative of the Galactic Concorde," she said, her voice translator modulating her chimes into soft English. "My vessel experienced failure. I request non-interference until my beacon is answered." The human regarded her. then the shattered pod visible through the trees. He gave a single slow nod. He pointed to himself. "Leo," he said, his voice a low rumble. Then he pointed at her, a question in his eyes. "Elara," she replied, her filaments still glowing caution. He nodded again. He knelt by the stream, filled his own container, and took a long drink. He pointed to her water vessel, then to the forest behind him, and made a walking motion with his fingers. He was offering to guide her. The concern she felt from him was genuine, but the idea of proximity to this emotionally vibrant being was terrifying. Yet the alternative was another night alone with the hunting howls. Her professional detachment was crumbling. "I accept guidance," she said, the words feeling heavy. "But you must maintain a distance of no less than 3 of your meters." Leo's mouth twitched, not in a smile, but in an expression of understanding. He rose, shouldered his wood tool, and moved, keeping a precise and respectful distance. He led her not to his dwelling, but to a sheltered overhang of rock, a natural cave fronted by a soft bed of dry moss. It was clean, safe, and open. He built a small, efficient fire at the entrance, the flames pushing back the deepening chill and the psychic chill of the night hunters. He placed a bundle of wrapped leaves near her, then retreated across the clearing to sit against a broad tree. Elara opened the leaves. Inside were reddish-orange segments of a local fruit and strips of cooked tuber. The generosity was clear. The respect for her space was unmistakable. For the first time since the crash, the tight coil of fear in her mind began to loosen. She ate. The fruit was sweet, the tuber earthy. She felt Leo's quiet vigilance, a watchful, protective calm that was like a psychic blanket. Her filaments dimmed to a contented silver shimmer. She slept deeply and without fear. The next morning, the problem was the weather. A cold, relentless rain began to fall, turning the forest into a dripping, gray maze. Leo approached her shelter, his concern a tangible wave. He pointed to the sky, then to a path leading uphill. His own dwelling, he communicated, was sturdier, warmer. The thought of entering an enclosed space with him sent a jolt of panic through her. But the cold was a physical ache, seeping into her fragile bones. Her logic prevailed. She needed shelter. He had proven himself honorable. His home was a small, well-made cabin of logs. It was warm, dry, and filled with the scent of wood smoke and dried herbs. He motioned her to a chair by the iron stove, then busied himself preparing a bitter, hot beverage. He moved with a quiet efficiency, always aware of her space. He felt safe. In her relief, her guard dropped completely. She noticed a curious artifact on a high shelf, a complex knot of polished wood and brass. Without thinking, driven by a scholar's instinct, she reached for it. It was just beyond her grasp. She stood on her toes, stretching Dot at that exact moment. Leo turned, carrying 2 steaming cups. Seeing her off balance, his instincts, honed by a life of physical labor and immediate action, took over. He stepped forward quickly. His free hand, coming up to steady her by her upper arm at times, stopped. For Leo, it was a simple, reflexive act of prevention. For Elara, the universe exploded. His touch was not just physical. It was a psychic avalanche. His entire emotional core, his kindness, his loneliness, his quiet strength, his buried grief for a lost family, his genuine awe at her very existence, flooded into her being, unfiltered and raw. It was the most profound, the most shocking, the most intimate moment of her life. She did not scream. She went utterly still, her eyes wide, her filaments erupting in a blinding, chaotic storm of colors. She wrenched her arm away, stumbling back until she hit the wall, sliding down to the floor. The hot beverage spilled, forgotten. Across the wooden planks, Leo recoiled as if burned, his own face a mask of shock and immediate regret. "I am sorry," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I saw you fall." Elara could not speak. The law of her people, ancient and absolute, echoed in her mind with the force of a galactic gong. The clause was designed for their protection, for a species for whom touch was a merging of souls. A telepath, upon receiving unsanctioned skin-to-skin contact from a being of sufficient sentience, may invoke the bonding mandate. The touched one holds the right to prevent psychic fragmentation and social abandonment, to claim the toucher as mate, binding the toucher's fate to their own for a period of no less than one standard galactic cycle. The human had not meant it. He had acted to help. But the law did not care for intent. It cared for effect. The touch had happened. The psychic imprint was upon her soul, permanent and unignorable. To return home untouched was now impossible. She would be marked, a social pariah, her psyche forever adrift, without the anchor the law provided. She looked up at him, her luminous eyes filled with a turmoil he could not possibly understand. Her voice, when it finally came, was a whisper of chimes, flat and final through the translator. "You touched me." Leo knelt, keeping his distance, his hands open and placating. "It was an accident. I meant no harm." "Harm is irrelevant," she said, the weight of her civilization in her words. "You touched me without consent. My people's law? The Galactic Concord Law for my species. It states you must be my mate." The word hung in the air between them. Leo stared, his calm composure shattered. He searched her face for any sign of joke or deceit, finding only desperate, solemn truth. He, a man who sought solitude in the deep woods, was being told he had just irrevocably married an alien being because he had kept her from stumbling. "Mate," he repeated, the word strange in his mouth. "For how long?" "One cycle," she said, her filaments a subdued, morn fu.